Hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Sit down, please. I'd like to speak English today too, to improve my speaking skill. Let's get it started. Today, it is January 27th, 2023. It's on Friday and raining outside. How are you spending Friday today? Do you have a work or school? Or is it a day off today? When I was a student at the school was sometimes cancelled due to typhoon, a violent storm, and so on, which made me very glad because I didn't have to go to a school because of that. Or I could go home earlier than usual for safety. The teacher told us to go home early before approach. Before typhoon approached. I remember going to friend's house for fun during that period. Cup of coffee. The kickboxer makes it his rule not to take solid food in the morning as breakfast. The kickboxer makes it his rule not to have breakfast not to take solid food for breakfast. Is the medicine solid or liquid or powdery? Is the medicine solid, powder, or liquid? Solid. Without solid foundation, everything accumulated on that will collapse. So the foundation, solid, firm foundation is very important. Solid object, solid and liquid object. The kickboxer makes it his rule not to take solid food for breakfast. He drinks vitamins. He drinks water with a lot of vitamins in the morning for breakfast. The plaintiff must have solid data to prove the defendant guilty to file a suit. The plaintiff has solid data to prove the defendant guilty to file a lawsuit. The baseball team showed good solidarity by running together, greeting together, and being kind to each other. Do you have a solid foundation of everything? I think most people will try to prepare 100% sure solid foundation before challenging. This is the reason why many people end up not challenging, because they are afraid of making a mistake, including me. Foundation is important, but nothing will be 100% for sure. Sometimes we are obliged to challenge something with a solid foundation. Solid team. Solid data. Solid data. Solid data to prove the man guilty. Solid data to prove ourselves innocence. The attorney told us that we couldn't win the lawsuit unless solid data would come out. Solid evidence would come out. The lawyer told me that we would lose the lawsuit unless solid evidences would come out. The lawyer told me that we would lose the lawsuit. We would lose the lawsuit. The lawyer told me that we would lose the lawsuit unless solid evidences would come out. Solidarity of the team. Solidarity of the team. The baseball team showed strong solidarity by being kind to each other, greeting each other well, flocking to the center, creating circle, and shouting the phrases together, and so on. Solidarity, 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 solidarity. Solidarity, solidarity. Solidarity is very emphasized in some communities. Solidarity is very emphasized in some communities. Solidarity is shown by wearing the same clothes, same way of thinking, and so on. How can we measure the solidity of the object without breaking it down? How can we measure the solidity of the object without breaking it? Is the solidity of diamond harder than iron or stones? How can we know that? Is the solidity of diamond harder than stone or iron? Solidity. Solidity will be one of the features to be trusted. Solidity will be one of the features, criteria for us to be trusted without less mistakes or no mistake. solidity, 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 solidity. Solidity, solidity, solidity. How hard is the solidity of the food? How do you want me to cook the noodle? Hard, soft, or a little soft? How would you like us to cook the ramen? I mean the noodle, the solidity of the noodle. How would you like us to cook the solidity of the noodle of the ramen? Soft, a little soft, or hard? Solidity, solidity. How can we measure the solidity of a product without breaking it down? Solidity, solidity. The employee is trusted for the solidity. He did with duties with a lot of care, so which makes him to have less mistakes. The employee is well known for the solidity. He did it with duties with a lot of care, which is helping him to make less mistakes. Solidity, 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 solidity. I realized the solidity of the ground when I was enjoying digging the hole of the ground. When I was a kid, I used to enjoy digging a hole in the ground, in the ground. But I gave into the solidity of the ground. I have the replicas of the paintings. I have replicas of the paintings. Even the replicas are sold expensive. Even the replicas are sold for very expensive prices. According to the information from the staff in the castle, the painting on the sliding door, the paintings on the sliding doors are replicas. painted by the researchers and students, and the originals are stored in somewhere else. Somewhere else. Replica. What are you making a replica of? What are you making a replica of? What are you making a replica of? Making a replica of something is prohibited. Making a replica of something is prohibited without permission. Replica. What are you making a replica of? Replica. 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 Even some replicas are sold very expensive prices. Even some replicas are sold for very expensive prices. Replica. Since the blueprint for the castle is still stored in somewhere, so it is possible to make a replica of the castle. Since the blueprint for the castle still exists in the storehouse, so it is possible to make a replica of the castle based on the blueprints. I hope I can be a billionaire in the near future and contribute to the society and the world drastically, thoroughly. The experts predict that many jobs will be replaced by robots and AIs. Some experts predict that 80% of the current jobs will disappear. Some things are predictable, so we can be prepared for that. Some things can be predictable, well, not 100% for sure, but we can be prepared to a certain extent, to some degrees, to some extent, to some extent, to a certain extent, to some degrees. Predictable consequence, predictable consequence, predictable, predictable consequence. The car accident was a predictable accident because it was drunk driving. We told him not to drive a car if he drank alcohol, but he did, so that's why the accident was a predictable one. Predictable accident. Predictable. Some things are predictable. For example, when the Japanese yen is very expensive, less foreign tourists will come to Japan. But there are some exceptions, so not 100% sure. But basically, the system is like that. And in reverse, when the Japanese yen is dropping too much, like now, less Japanese people will go foreign countries. But there are of course some exceptions. Rich people can go everywhere, anytime, without problem of the money, without money problem. I want to be rich enough enough not to be caring about the money. I want to be rich enough not to think about money price and so on. I want to be rich enough to be able to travel in the world without worrying about money. I wish I were rich enough to travel in the world without worrying about money. The possibility of tsunami um, is predictable after the earthquake. Many predictions made by people in the past failed. Do you tend to believe many predictions made by famous figures? Do you believe in the predictions made by famous celebrities, influencers? Are you inclined to believe predictions made by famous people? Are you up to believe in the predictions made by influencers? Do you tend to believe in predictions made by distinguished figures, noted figures, famous figures, renowned figures? Some predictors predicted how the world would be in the past. The birds appearing in front of me in January last year were the predictors notifying me of the pass of the examination. Looking back on the days, the birds appearing in front of me in January last year were the predictors of notifying me of the passing of the examination, because I could pass. I could pass the examination on the next in the next month. So if I look back on the dates, if I look back on the days, the January last year, the birds in front of appearing in front of me were the predictors notifying me of the pass. Predictor. 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 Are you a predictor? How often the predictions made by the predictors hit the target? How often do the predictions made by the predictors hit the target? How often do the predictions made by the predictors hit the target? How frequently do the predictions made by the predictors hit the target? Predictor. Eventually, I'd like to get a Grammy Award. The researcher committed himself into the research and eventually won the Nobel Prize for Physics. I'd like to enter the university and eventually enter the company. Unless we give up, I believe we can make good eventually. Unless we give up, I believe we can make good. We can make good eventually. We can make good. The things we are doing will pay off eventually. 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 Ultimately. In the end, at last. In the end, at last. Eventually, I'd like to be a father. Eventually, I'd like to have a happy family. Eventually, I'd like to create a happy family. Having a happy lunch, dinner, trip, and so on. What is your eventual goal in your life? What is the eventual goal of your life? Eventual itinerary will be sent to us prior to the departure, prior to the start of the tour. The eventual itinerary will be sent to us by 3 days before the tour, start of the tour. The eventual itinerary will be sent to us by 7 days before the start of the tour. What is the eventual goal of your life? What is the eventual goal of your life? What is the eventual goal? Eventual goal of your life? Goal. What is the eventual goal of your life? What is the eventual goal of your life? Eventual goal. Eventual. Let's wait for the eventual decisions to be made. Let's wait for the eventual decisions to be made. Eventual form of painting, eventual form of inventing, eventual form of society. What do you think will be the eventual type of society, way of working, and so on? What do you predict will be the eventual style of life? Winning the World Cup was his eventual dream of his career. Winning the World Cup was his eventual dream of his career, in his career. Winning the World Cup was his eventual goal in his career. The dose is written on the label of the pack, so please do not take more than a dose. The right dose, the correct dose, is written on the label of the pack, so please do not take beyond the dose. Please take the dose as you were told by your doctor. Please take the correct dose as you were told by your doctor. The doctor told me that I should take the correct dose as I was told by the doctor. Dose, 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 dose. Please promise me that you will take the correct dose, not beyond the limitation. How much is the dose? The dose is usually different between adults and kids. The dose is usually different between kids and adults. Please hold the dose as you were told by your doctor. Okay? Dose. Dose. Excess dose is not acceptable. You should avoid definitely. My doctor told me that I have to keep the dose, hold the dose, keep the dose, keep to the dose, stick with the dose, stick to the dose. Please stand up for the dose. Please stick with the correct dose. Please stick to the dose. Please stick with what you were told by your doctor. Please stick to what you were told by your doctor. Please avoid excess dose. 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 Hmm. Please avoid excess dose. Excess dose of the medicine is very dangerous. So please definitely avoid excess dose. Excess dose is troublesome, problematic. Excess dose should be avoided. Excess dose should be prevented. Excess dose should be prevented by measures. Excess dose can be fatal. Excess dose can be fatal. Hmm. When I got sick and went to the hospital, the doctor dosed me 5 days of doses. 5 day doses. 5 day doses of medicine. 5 day doses of medicine. When I got a common sick, when I developed a common sick and went to hospital, the doctor dosed me 5 day doses of medicine, just in case. And I could recover in 2 or 3 days. But I got 5 day doses of medicine just in case. When I caught a cold, when I caught a common cold and went to the hospital, the doctor dosed me 5 day doses of medicine just in case. 5 day doses of medicine. 5 day doses of medicine. Doses of medicine. 5 day doses of medicine. 5 day doses of medicine. Not every patient is dosed. Medicine is dosed according to the symptom of the patients. Not every patient can get medicine. Not every patient will be dosed medicine. Not every patient will be dosed. Not every patient will be dosed. Not every patient will be dosed. Not every patient is dosed. Dosed. The doctor sometimes did not dose me because of because of the symptom. Medicine will be prescribed according to the symptoms, condition of us. Dose. The doctor dosed me 5-day doses of medicine. The doctor dosed me 5-day of medicine. 5-day amount of medicine. The doctor dosed me 5-day amount of medicine. Dose. The doctor dosed me 5-day amount of medicine and told me to come to the hospital again if the symptom didn't recover. If the symptom didn't go well. The doctor dosed me 5-day amount of medicine and told me to come to the hospital again if the symptom didn't go well. The doctor dosed me 5-day amount of medicine and told me to come to the hospital again if I couldn't recover. The doctor didn't dose me the medicine I wanted to get because my symptom was very light, not so serious. The doctor did not dose me the medicine I wanted to get because my symptom was not serious enough and the medicine is very dangerous, very strong. The doctor did not dose me the medicine I wanted to get because my symptom was not serious enough and the medicine is too strong for me. I remember buying electrical components in Nipponbashi, Osaka. There are many electrical components available, sold in Akihabara, Tokyo. The most important components that we should have in order to achieve breakthrough are curiosity and persistence. Curiosity and persistence, I believe so. The components that we should have in order to achieve breakthrough are curiosity and persistency. Persistently. Do that persistently until you achieve your goal. Persistently. Resilience is very important. Let's convert the anger to the power to continue doing what we love forever, eternally, perpetually, forever. Component, chemical component. Even I read the chemical component written on the label, I cannot understand it. I cannot make heads or tails of the content. I cannot make heads or tails of the chemical compounds, chemical components. Even I read that. Even if I read the chemical components written on the label, I cannot understand it. I cannot make heads or tails of that. I cannot make heads or tails of the details. Even if I read the chemical components, I cannot understand it. So I leave it to the pharmacist. I leave them to the pharmacist. I tell my symptoms to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist will choose the best medicine for me. component, chemical component. The doctor chose the best medicine with the best chemical components according to my symptoms. My family doctor chose the best chemical component according to my symptoms. The doctor chose the best chemical components in the medicine according to my symptoms, skin condition, and so on. Component, electrical component. Some people like electrical components. Some people are maniac, anurag, geek, nerd about electrical component. Are you interested in electrical component? Are you interested in electrical component? Are you interested in electrical component? Electric component. Do you have the interest in electrical component? There are many electrical components sold in Nipponbashi, Osaka, and Akihabara, Tokyo. The most important component parts in life, I believe, is to do what we love. The most important component parts in life is to do what we love, I believe. The component parts in succeed in life might be challenging something crazy. The component parts of making a breakthrough is to challenge something crazy, totally crazy. Component, chemical component. The chemical component is arranged according to my symptom. The chemical component is arranged, modified according to my symptoms. The chemical component is modified according to my symptoms. The doctor chose the best chemical component according to my symptom. The doctor chose the best chemical component according to my symptom. The doctor chose the best chemical component according to my symptom. The doctor chose the best chemical component according to my symptom. Component. chemical component. The doctor chose the best chemical component according to my symptoms. I believe some components needed to achieve breakthrough are curiosity and persistency. I believe some components, two of the components that we, in order to achieve breakthrough, are curiosity and persistency. Component, chemical component. The doctor chose the best chemical component according to my symptom. Component, 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 component. Component, component, component parts, component parts. Engine is one of the component parts of a car. Engine is the most important component parts in cars. Engine is one of the most important component parts in cars. Engine is the most important component part in cars. Component parts, component parts, component parts, component, 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 component. Engine is one of the component parts of cars. I believe persistency and curiosity are the most important component parts in succeeding in everything. Component parts, component parts, component parts. The component parts I want you to have are curiosity and persistency. Some of the component parts of the car are engines, suspension, and so on. Component parts, component parts. Teachers and students are component parts of the university. Teachers, students are component parts of the university. Component parts. The component parts of the society are changing. The component part in the society is changing. The component parts of the cars will drastically change according to the shift from gas-powered car to EV car, electric-powered car, electric-powered vehicle. The component parts of the car will drastically change in the process of the shift from gas-powered car to the electric vehicle. 70% male students compose the university. About 65% of male students compose the university. I used to compose some pieces. I used to compose my own pieces, but I don't have that much time to do that. I wish I had enough time for composing my music again. But a long blank, not composing my music, making me lose the interest in that. The long blank, not composing my music, is making me lose the making me lose the interest in that. But the long blank, not composing my music, is making me lose the interest. 12 members compose the executive committee. 12 members compose the executive committee. The multinational company is composed of one headquarter and 15 branch offices in the world and in Japan. The retailer is composed of 3 staffs. The retailer is composed of 3 staffs, and all of the 3 are relatives, family members. The retailer is composed of the family members. What kind of music are you composing? Can I know what kind of music you are composing? What kind of music do you like to compose? What kind of music are you composing? What kind of music are you composing? I'd like to ask if you can compose rock music. Can you compose the rock music? Can you compose rock music? Can you compose classical music? The family members compose the retailer. The couple compose the retailer, the shop. The couple owns the shop. The couple owns the shop. The couple compose the shop. The couple compose the shop. %70 male students and 30% female students compose the university. 70% male students and the other percent female students compose the university. Did Juliet compose the music? Are you joking? Are you kidding? If it is genuine, authentic, if the music was really composed by you, you are so talented. I wish I had enough time to compose. I wish I had enough time to compose. I wish I had enough time to compose. I used 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 to compose. I wonder how the musician in the past, like 17th century, composing. I sometimes wonder how the musicians in the past composing. I sometimes wonder how the musicians in the past were composing. I sometimes wonder how the musicians in the past were composing. The company is composed of 60% foreign departments. The company is composed of 70 women and 30% men. The small shop is composed of family members. Many small businesses are composed of only family members. Many retailers are composed of family members. Many small businesses are composed of only family members. Many small businesses are composed of family members. The bakery shop is also composed of only family members. The bakery shop we went yesterday is also composed of only family members. The object is composed of iron. The statue is composed of bronze. 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 The composition of the companies might be drastically changed. Might have to be drastically changed. The composition of many things was drastically changed in the mid-19th century by Meiji Restoration. Meiji Restoration is a series of reforms which modernized Japan drastically, thoroughly. Composition. 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 Composition of the society has yet to be open public. The composition of the entity has yet to be made public. The composition of the executive members will be made public soon. I'd like to restart my composition in the near future. I'd like to restart my composition. I'd like to resume my composition. I'd like to resume my composition. I'd like to restart my composition. composition, composition. Drastic changes need to be made to many compositions in the society. Composition of the diet house might need to be changed drastically. The biased composition of the executive members filled with men might need to be changed. There might be a couple of changes to the composition of the members. There might be a couple of changes to the composition of the members. Once you submit the composition of the members for the competition, you cannot change the members. So please bear that in mind. So please keep that in mind. Can I change the composition of the members? Can I change the composition of the layout? Can I change the composition of the layout? When can I change the composition of the layout up to? By. When can I change the composition of the layout by? By when do I have to tell the composition, inform you of the change to the composition of the layout? Composition. All obsolete compositions of the society are collapsing. Obsolete compositions of everything are collapsing. The biased composition of the executive members should be changed drastically. The composition of the departments in the company will be drastically changed. The composition of the way of working is being changing. The composition of way of working. The composition of the style of working is being changing. The composition of many things is being changing. Composition to the layout is acceptable by Friday. A couple of changes were made to the composition of the layout. A couple of changes were made to the composition of the layout. Are you in charge of the composition of the itinerary? Composition of the executive members. Composition. Can I modify the itinerary? Can I modify the information I inserted? I filled out yesterday. Can I modify my private information I filled out yesterday? Can I modify the private information I filled in yesterday? Sure, please. I'd like to modify the private information I filled out yesterday. How can I go to the my profile page? How can I go to the page in which I can change my profile? I'd like to modify my private information I filled out yesterday, but I don't know how to go to the page in which I can change the profile. There are some information that you cannot modify once you fill it out. So please bear that in mind. So please keep that in mind. There are some information that you cannot modify once you fill it out. So please bear that in mind. There are some information that you cannot modify with some exceptions once you fill it out. Once you fill it in. So please bear that in mind. Modify, amend, fix, modify, modify, modify. I modified many things in the websites, email addresses, passwords, and so on for safety. We can change email addresses, passwords for safety. The itinerary might be changed, might be modified according to weather condition. I hope all of the days in the tour will be sunny. I hope all of the days will be sunny. I hope all of the days during the tour will be sunny. I hope all of the days during the tour will be sunny. You have the right to modify. You have the right to modify. The agency has the right to modify without notifying us of the emergency in case of emergency. The agency has the right to modify if in case of emergency without notifying us. The agency has the right to modify the itinerary in case of emergency. Let's modify. I'd like to modify. Sometimes we like to modify something. Sometimes we feel like modifying something we created in the past. We made created us in the past. Sometimes we feel like modifying something we created in the past. I'd like to modify the plan. I'd like to modify the plan. I'm eager to modify the plan. I'm excited to modify the plan. I'm eager to modify the plan. Would you also like to modify? Modify. Once he decides it, he never will modify. The arrogant person will not modify once he make a resolution. Once he make a resolution, he never modify. Once the obstinate, stubborn man make a resolution, he will never modify. He will never modify. Once the man make a resolution, he will never modify. Modification to the plan is available. I'd like to know if I can make a modification to the plan, original plan. A couple of modifications to the plan will be accepted. Some modifications to the plan might happen, might arise, might arouse, might come about, might bring about. I'd like to put an end to the examination as soon as possible. I'd like to put an end to the hard practice. The summer came to an end for that student, for the members. The TV program will come to an end at 9:45 o'clock. The tour is scheduled to come to an end at 5:30 p.m. The tour is scheduled to come to an end at 5:30 p.m. Can you bring the task to an end by Friday? Can you bring the task to an end? Can you bring the task to an end by Friday? I will do my best. Modification to the plan, original plan. Modification to the 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 original plan. To the original plan. Modification. There are some information that you cannot make a modification to once you fill it out. A couple of modifications to the plan might happen, might arise, come about. Modification, 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 modification. Frequent modifications to the plan will make us lose the reputation. Frequent modifications to the plan will make us lose the reputation of the company, shop, and so on. frequent modification to the documents, plans, and so on will make others lose your reputation. Frequent modifications to what you have created will make them lose your reputation. Frequent modifications to what you have created will make them lose your reputation. What does a modifier key exactly mean? Modifier, temperature modifier, temperature modifier. The funny joke made by the boss worked as an atmosphere modifier. The funny joke made by the boss worked as a modifier. Atmosphere modifier. The boring joke made by the boss worked as an atmosphere modifier, which made the atmosphere moderate. Which made the atmosphere moderate. Adverb modifier makes the sentences more preciser. Adverb modifiers make the sentences preciser. Adverb modifiers make the sentences preciser, artfully. Modifier, 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 modifier. Have you visited Kiyomizu Temple, which is famous for the main hall with a veranda jutting out over the hillside? Modifier. The funny jokes made by the boss made the atmosphere moderate. The funny jokes made by the boss worked as a modifier, atmosphere modifier. The funny jokes made by the director worked as a atmosphere modifier, atmosphere modifier, atmosphere modifier, atmosphere modifier. Atmosphere modifier. Atmosphere modifier. Atmosphere modifier. Atmosphere modifier. Key modifier. Modifier key. What does modifier key exactly mean? How does it work? Modifier. Modifier. The button is a modifier. Of the temperature. The switch is a modifier of the temperature. The switch is a modifier of the temperature in the room. Who is a modifier of the plan? Who was the modifier of the plan? Who is the modifier? Who modified the plan? Who is the modifier of the plan? Who is the modifier of the plan? The funny jokes made by the boss worked as the atmosphere modifier. The funny jokes made by the director worked as the atmosphere modifier. The funny jokes made by the director worked as the atmosphere modifier. Atmosphere modifier. Modifier. Modifiers are very convenient to make the sentences more abundant, rich, but which also makes me confused in understanding. Who is the modifier of the plan? Modifier. Sugar and salt are used as a modifier, taste modifier. Sugar and salt are used taste changer, as a taste modifier, as a taste modifier, as a taste modifier. Some condiments are used as taste modifiers, as taste modifiers. Sugar, the pepper is added to the ramen as taste modifier. Some garlic can be added into the ramen as taste modifier. Taste modifier. Taste modifier. Taste modifier. Some garlic is added into the ramen as taste modifier. Some pepper can be added to the ramen as a taste modifier, 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 as a taste modifier. Do you add a lot of sugar into the coffee as taste modifier? Sugar is a taste modifier into many foods. Sugar is a taste modifier into many foods. Sugar can be a taste modifier. Sugar, salt are taste modifiers. Sugar and salt are popular taste modifier. Modifier. There are always some employees who work as an atmosphere modifier. There are some people, employees, students, who work as atmosphere modifier. Atmosphere modifier. There are always employees or students who work as atmosphere modifier. Modifier. There are always someone who work as an atmosphere modifier. There are always a couple of people who work as atmosphere modifiers. Atmosphere modifiers. Modifier. 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 The funny jokes made by the director worked as a atmosphere modifier. Atmosphere modifier. The funny jokes made by the directors worked as a atmosphere modifier. The funny jokes made by the director worked as an atmosphere modifier. The funny jokes made by the director worked as an atmosphere modifier. 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 There are always couple of people who work as atmosphere modifiers. Atmosphere modifiers. Modifier. The chemical compounds are written in the label, but I cannot understand it. I cannot next understand it. I cannot next make heads or tails of the compounds, chemical compounds. Compound of the ingredients. Compound of shops and houses. The building is the compound of the shop and house. The building is the compound of both shop and private home. There are north, south, east and west entrances in the compound of the castle. There is a cafe in the compound of the temple, so if you are tired of walking, we can have rest there. There are nice tables covered with red carpet. There is a waterfall in the compound of the temple. There is also cafe where you can enjoy matcha, powdered green tea. Matcha is made by adding hot water into the powdered green tea leaves and beating it with bamboo whisk. And by beating it with bamboo whisk. I tasted the matcha for the first time last year, 2 years ago, and it tasted very bitter and very bitter. Yes, I still remember the taste. It was very bitter. The building is the compound of both shop and home. The building is the compound of shop and private home. The building is a compound of both private home and shop. Shopping mall is a kind of compound consisting of shops, many shops. Shopping mall is a kind of compound consisting of many shops. Shopping mall is a compound consisting of many shops. The three small villages were compounded into a bigger one. The three cities were compounded into a bigger one. There are waterfalls in the compound of the temple. Are there toilets in the compound of the temple? Yes, there are. Littering in the compound of the temple is prohibited and subject to maximum fine of $500. Chemical compound, pharmaceutical compound, pharmaceutical compound, pharmaceutical compounds are written on the level, but I cannot understand it. I cannot comprehend that. I cannot apprehend that. I cannot make heads or tails of that. The pharmaceutical compounds are written on the level, but I cannot next to make heads or tails of that. Compound. Compound. Okay, I will finish speaking here. Thank you for watching. See you next time.